Most people get this completely wrong. The more you try to be liked, the less you are respected. And the moment you start seeking approval, you quietly give your power away. Here's the truth. Respect is not built by what you say. It's built by what you allow and what you refuse. And once you understand these 4 rules, everything about how you are treated begins to change. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop reacting, people start reacting to you differently? The moment you pull your energy back, they lean in more. That is not random. That is human behavior. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Because respect is not emotional. It is behavioral. It is a response to patterns. And there are 4 rules that quietly control how you are seen, valued, and treated in any situation. All right, listen closely. I really need you to take this in like your future depends on it, because in many ways it actually does. We are living in a time where relationships are confusing people more than ever before. Everyone says they want love, but very few truly understand what respect means. Everyone wants attention, but they have no idea how to create real value around themselves. And then people sit there wondering, asking the same questions again and again. Why doesn't he take me seriously? Why doesn't he step up? Why does he slowly change over time? And I'm going to tell you something very simple and very real. Men don't just fall in love randomly. Men respond to structure. They respond to energy. And most importantly, they respect a woman who clearly knows who she is and lives by rules that protect her peace, her worth, and her standards. Because let me tell you something that you might not enjoy hearing at first. Love without respect does not last. It slowly fades away, it becomes too comfortable, and then it turns careless. But when respect is present, everything shifts. That is when a man starts to rise. That is when he focuses on you fully. That is when he begins to show up in a different way, a stronger way. So today, I'm going to break this down for you in a deeper way. These are simple but powerful ideas that can completely change how a man sees you, how he treats you, and how much he values you. And if you really listen carefully, this could be the moment where things finally begin to change for you in a real and lasting way. Let me tell you something honest, something most people only understand after they have already been hurt too many times. A man cannot see your value if you have not fully seen it yourself first. And I don't mean just saying, I know my worth on a good day when everything feels perfect and your confidence is high. I'm talking about a deep and steady understanding of who you are, what you bring into someone's life, and what you will never allow anyone to question or lower. Because when a woman does not truly know her value, she starts to negotiate her worth in places where she should never even be asking for approval. She starts explaining her love too much. She starts giving more time than she should. She starts lowering her standards just to keep someone who was never right for her in the first place. And then she sits there confused, wondering why she is not being treated the same way she treats others. But here is the truth that might shake you a little. You do not get respect for what you tolerate. You get respect for what you refuse to accept. When you truly know your value, you stop begging for consistency. You stop chasing attention. You stop forcing effort from someone who is not willing to give it naturally, because you understand something that most people completely miss. The right man does not need to be convinced, and the wrong man will never become enough, no matter how much you give or how hard you try. And when you go even deeper into this, knowing your value starts changing your behavior without you even noticing it. You stop treating small effort like it is something big. You stop calling confusion love. You stop building a future in your mind based on someone's potential instead of their reality. A woman who knows her value does not compete for attention. She simply watches how it is given. She does not chase a man's time. She looks at how he chooses to use it, because she understands that time is not just about minutes passing by. It is about effort, priority, energy, and intention all together. And here is the part that really changes everything in a quiet but powerful way. When you truly know your value, you become calm in situations that used to make you anxious before. You stop panicking when someone pulls away. You stop overthinking when someone does not reply quickly, because your identity is no longer connected to someone else's actions. You start standing in a different kind of strength, not loud strength, not arrogant energy, but a quiet confidence, the kind that does not need to prove anything. The kind that walks into a room and does not ask to be chosen because it already knows it is worth choosing. And believe it or not, men can feel that energy even if they do not say it out loud. A man may not fully understand it at first, but he can sense when a woman is acting from self-respect instead of neediness, and that energy feels completely different. One creates confusion, while the other creates clarity. Because when you truly know your value, you do not try to prove anything to anyone. You do not explain your worth to someone who keeps failing to see it. You simply take a step back and let your absence speak for you. And that silence often says more than words ever could. But this is where many people struggle. They mix emotional attachment with real value. Just because you care deeply does not mean you should lower your standards. Just because you love someone does not mean you should lose yourself. And just because you want someone does not mean they deserve unlimited access to you. Knowing your value means you understand balance. You know when to give and when to step back. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. You understand that not every situation deserves your energy, and not every person deserves your explanation. And once you reach that level of understanding, everything begins to shift naturally. The way you move changes. The way you choose people changes. The way you see situations becomes clearer. You stop searching for someone to complete you because you already feel whole within yourself. Now, you are not looking for validation. You are simply deciding who is worthy enough to share your space. And that is where real respect truly begins to grow and stay strong. Because when you finally understand your worth, there is something else that becomes very clear. Boundaries are not walls that block love. Boundaries are filters that protect your peace and your time. And when a woman learns how to set boundaries in the right way, she does not become cold or distant. She becomes clear. She does not lose love, she removes confusion. She does not push the right people away, she simply removes the wrong kind of access from her life. And here is a truth that many people do not like to accept. People will treat you based on what you allow, not what you deserve. And if you do not clearly define your limits, someone else will define them for you. And most of the time they will define them in a way that benefits them, not you. When you do not have boundaries, you end up giving too much, explaining too much, and investing too much in people who are not showing up for you in the same way. You start accepting behaviors you once said you never would. Late replies become normal. Inconsistent effort gets excuses. Disrespect gets ignored as overthinking. And slowly, without even realizing it, your standards begin to drop. That is where self-respect starts to fade away. But a woman who understands boundaries moves differently. She does not argue to be respected. She shows what respect looks like through her actions. She does not beg for consistency. She expects it. And when it is not there, she does not complain again and again. She simply creates distance. And let me make this very clear. Boundaries are not about controlling someone else. They are about controlling how you respond. You cannot force a man to be consistent, but you can decide what you will do when he is not. That is where your real power exists. Because the moment you begin to enforce boundaries, something changes inside you. You stop reacting quickly and emotionally, and you start responding with intention. You stop letting short feelings control long-term self-respect. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to giving too much or always being available. You will feel the urge to explain yourself, to justify your actions, or to make your boundaries softer just to keep someone around. But this is where real growth starts. When you choose discipline over desperation, everything begins to change. A strong woman understands that not every message needs an instant reply. Not every situation needs her emotional reaction. Not every inconsistency deserves a deep conversation. Sometimes silence itself becomes the boundary. Sometimes distance becomes the message. Sometimes choosing yourself is the strongest response you can give. And here is something very interesting. When you start setting boundaries, you quickly see who is benefiting from your lack of them. The people who are comfortable with confusion begin to fade away. The ones who enjoyed access without effort start disappearing. And yes, it may feel like loss at first, but it is actually alignment happening in your life because the right people do not get upset by boundaries. They respect them. They understand that clarity creates stronger and healthier connections. A man who truly values you will not struggle with your standards. He may need time to adjust, but he will not fight against them because respect does not feel like restriction to the right person. It feels like guidance. And boundaries do not make you difficult. They make you clear and consistent. People know how to treat you. They know what is acceptable and what is not. And that removes confusion and emotional chaos. And when that confusion disappears, something powerful takes its place: stability. And that stability is what builds real respect over time. But if we go even deeper, boundaries also protect your emotional energy. Because without them, you slowly become available to everyone except yourself. You respond to every need around you while ignoring your own. You give your time, your attention, and your care so freely that you forget to save some of it for your own peace, your own growth, and your own happiness. You start pouring your energy into situations that never give anything back to you. And over time, you begin to feel drained, not because life itself is too difficult, but because you never take a moment to protect your own peace and your own needs. When you begin to have real boundaries, something inside you changes in a calm but powerful way. You start choosing yourself without feeling guilty about it. You start saying no without needing to explain every detail. You begin to understand that peace is not something you negotiate with others. It is something you decide to protect. And that one shift alone completely changes how people experience you. Because when a woman truly knows how to set boundaries, she stops chasing respect and starts naturally living in it. Let me explain something that many people only understand after they go through pain. Chasing never creates real love. It only creates imbalance, and imbalance is one of the fastest ways to lose respect, lose attraction, and slowly lose yourself while trying to hold on to someone who was never holding on to you in the same way. Because when a woman starts chasing, something subtle but very powerful changes. She stops being the prize and starts acting like she needs to prove that she is one. She begins over-texting, over-calling, over-explaining her feelings, and putting too much energy into someone who is not giving the same effort back. And without even realizing it, her value in that situation slowly begins to drop. But attraction does not grow through chasing. Attraction grows through energy, presence, and strong standards. It grows when a woman knows how to stay grounded within herself, even when her emotions feel intense. Because real confidence is not shown when someone is giving you attention. Real confidence is shown when they are not, and you still remain calm, steady, and respectful toward yourself. A woman who understands this does not feel the need to run after someone's attention. She does not compete for replies or panic during silence. She does not create false stories in her mind just because someone took longer to respond. She understands that her value is not measured by someone else's availability or behavior. And here is the deeper truth that changes everything. When you stop chasing, you start observing. And observation brings clarity. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not who you wish they could become. You start noticing real effort, consistency, emotional maturity, and true intention instead of getting lost in sweet words, empty promises, and short moments of affection. Because chasing keeps you emotionally blind. It keeps your focus on what you hope the situation will become instead of what it actually is. But when you stop chasing, clarity enters your life, and clarity is powerful. It protects your time, your energy, and your emotions from being wasted on people who are not aligned with your worth. Now let's be honest about something. Most people do not chase because they are weak. They chase because they are afraid. Afraid of losing someone, afraid of being alone, afraid that if they do not act quickly, they will miss their chance. But here is the truth that many people avoid. What you are afraid of losing is often not fully yours to begin with. And when a woman learns to stay in her own energy without chasing, something shifts in how others see her. She becomes more grounded, more calm, and more attractive. Not because she is doing more, but because she is doing less in the right way. She is no longer emotionally available to chaos. She is no longer reacting to every small change in behavior. She becomes steady, and that steadiness is rare. Because the truth is, chasing creates pressure, and pressure removes attraction. No one feels drawn to someone who feels like they are trying too hard to keep them. But people are naturally drawn to those who feel secure within themselves, those who are not desperate for validation, those who are comfortable with space, those who do not lose themselves in uncertainty. And here is something important. When you stop chasing, you are not losing control. You are gaining it. You are taking your power back from emotional reactions and placing it into intentional decisions. You begin to choose where your energy goes instead of letting your emotions decide for you. Because energy is the real language of attraction. Not constant messages, not always being available, not forcing conversations, but energy. How you carry yourself, how you respond, how you respect your own time and presence. And when a woman shifts from chasing to attracting, she becomes different in every situation. She does not rush to answer. She does not overthink silence. She does not try to fix things that are unclear. She simply stays aligned with her own value and allows people to show their place in her life through their actions, not through her effort. And that is where real power begins, because the moment you stop running after someone, you start returning to yourself. Let me tell you something that can completely change how you are seen, heard, and respected in any relationship. Communication is not about how much you talk, it is about how clearly you are understood. And the truth is, most women do not lose respect because they express their feelings. They lose respect because of how they express them when emotions take control instead of clarity. Because when communication comes only from emotion, it becomes reaction instead of expression. It becomes noise instead of direction. And when a man feels overwhelmed by emotional reactions, confusion starts to grow. Not because he does not care, but because the message is no longer coming from a calm and grounded place. A woman who communicates with confidence understands this difference clearly. She does not rush into conversations when she feels angry, hurt, or anxious. She takes time to calm herself first because she knows that what she says in chaos can damage what she truly wants in peace. And if we are honest, most problems in relationships are not caused by lack of love, but by lack of clear communication. People assume too much. People overthink too much. People expect others to understand without expressing their needs properly. And when expectations are not spoken, frustration slowly replaces them. But confident communication is different. It is not loud, it is not aggressive, and it is not emotional dumping. It is calm, clear, and intentional. It expresses what needs to be said without attacking, without begging, and without losing control. Because the moment you start communicating from emotion instead of self-respect, you change the energy of the entire interaction. You stop expressing your feelings and start trying to convince someone of them. And that is where imbalance begins, when you feel like you have to fight just to be understood. At the end of all this, everything comes back to one simple truth. The way people treat you is deeply connected to how you treat yourself. When you know your value, protect your peace, stop chasing, communicate with clarity, and stand firm in your self-respect, everything around you begins to shift naturally. You no longer need to force attention, explain your worth, or hold on to situations that do not feel right. Instead, you move with calm confidence, and that energy speaks louder than anything you could ever say. And the real change is not just in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. You become more grounded, more clear, and more in control of your choices. You stop reacting out of fear and start responding with purpose. You stop settling for less and start allowing only what aligns with your standards. And in that space, the right people recognize your value without being asked, while the wrong ones slowly fade away on their own. Because in the end, respect is not something you chase. It is something you build through your actions, your boundaries, and your consistency. And when you truly reach that point, you are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing what deserves a place in your life. And that is where real peace, real confidence, and real connection begin.